And, you look at the scoreline, one draw, you think, maybe not a very exciting match, but
Not so fast.
yeah.
There's a lot more to it than meets the eye. I think this game really tells us a lot about where these two teams are at right now.
It really does. It's kind of like a snapshot of two teams going in opposite directions almost.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you've got Napoli, a team that's, expected to be challenging at the top of the table.
Right.
And then you have Bologna, a team that's, kind of exceeding expectations.
Right.
And the way they played in this match, really kind of shows where they are mentally as well.
Yeah, and I think for a Napoli fan watching this game, you've got to be thinking like, okay, so Anguissa scores early on, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like it's not a pretty goal.
No, not a typical goal.
But it's effective.
Yeah, it's like I've seen it described as almost like a rugby-esque goal, just kind of like a slap in the face to Bologna's possession because they were really dominating the ball early on.
Yeah, you felt like, okay, maybe this is the spark that gets them going.
Right.
And Lukaku had a good first half as well, right?
Yeah, he did. He was really strong holding up the ball, bringing others into play, allowing guys like McTominay and Anguissa to kind of push forward.
Yeah.
He was a real handful for the Bologna center backs in that first half for sure.
But then, the second half, it just seemed like things just kind of fell apart a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
And I think a big turning point was when Lukaku started to tire a little bit.
Yeah.
And Bologna started to press higher up the pitch. And suddenly Napoli just became really, really vulnerable.
They looked lost.
They did.
Yeah.
It's like they didn't really know how to cope with that pressure. And I think that's something we've seen from them a few times this season, this kind of like second half drop off in intensity, in focus, almost like regardless of the scoreline.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like they're up 1-0 and they're like, okay, we could just relax a bit.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, is it, a lack of, leadership on the pitch? Is it tactical fatigue? What's going on there?
Yeah, it's a good question.
And then the substitutions as well.
Yeah. I got to say, it was just like watching them from the, Conte's suspended, right?
Yeah.
So Stellini's on the bench, and it's just like, the substitutions came so late, bringing on 3 players at the very end, like Maganj for Politano in the 90th minute.
Right.
It's just like,
it doesn't exactly scream, we're going for the win.
No, it does not. It's like
almost settling for the draw.
Right. Almost like they were happy to take the point and run.
And, you look at their recent form as well. It's just been,
not great.
2 wins in their last 9 matches.
Yeah. And even though they gained a point on Inter in this game,
right,
it's still not really the kind of form you want to be in.
Going into the final stretch of the season.
Let's switch gears and talk about Bologna because
they were impressive.
I was going to say they looked really good, especially in terms of that, that high press, winning the ball back in Napoli's half.
Yeah, their PPDA passes allowed per defensive action was really low.
Right.
Which means they were really aggressive in winning the ball back.
Yeah.
And they weren't just winning it back, they were creating chances from it.
Yeah. What is it about their attacks that makes them so effective, do you think?
I think it's the variety and the execution. They're not just relying on one type of attack. You see well-timed runs, you see clever passing combinations.
Yeah.
They've got players who are comfortable in different attacking roles. And, I think the Ndoi goal is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't just a lucky bounce.
No, it was a fantastic goal.
It started with a beautiful through ball from Miranda to Odegaard, who puts in a perfect cross. And then Ndoi with the audacity to even attempt a back heel in that situation. Yeah.
And for it to come off, hit the bar twice, and go in.
Oh, it was just
that's
breathtaking.
It was a moment of brilliance.
Yeah.
And it was just, a well-constructed attacking move from start to finish.
And you know what? Even after the equalizer,
yeah,
both teams had chances to win it, right?
They did. It was a really frantic finish to the game.
Scuffet with a good save from home.
Yep.
Then you had Castro missed a tap-in. Romani couldn't convert from close range for Napoli.
It was end-to-end stuff.
Yes. It was a really exciting finish.
Yeah, it was a really exciting finish. Yeah. And while Bologna might feel like they could have maybe deserved all 3 points.
Yeah.
I think if you look at Napoli's upcoming schedule, this point could actually be quite valuable for them.
Right.
They've got a run of games coming up against teams in the lower half of the table.
Right.
All teams that they beat in the reverse fixtures.
Right.
So, this draw could give them a little bit of a cushion.
Yeah, almost like buying them some time, right? Yeah, exactly.
To regroup. And then you look at Bologna, they're in a really good spot right now.
They are.
They're, They've got a chance to go to Atalanta and win, and they could be third in the league.
For the first time since 1997.
Which is incredible.
It is incredible, and it just shows you how far they've come under Italiano.
Let's talk about some individual performances. Because
let's get into the ratings.
The ratings are always interesting.
They are.
So Ndoye stood out, obviously.
Of course, 7.5 rating for him.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a constant threat to Di Lorenzo all game.
Yeah.
And obviously scored that incredible equalizer.
He was the driving force behind a lot of their attacks.
Absolutely. And Miranda as well had a great game, providing the assist for the goal. He got a 7.
Yep.
Odegaard also very dangerous in the final third.
Right.
Perfect assist for the goal, got a 7 as well. And we have to mention Ravalia, who came on for the injured Skorupski and made some crucial saves. He got a 7 as well.
Good for him.
And even Holm, who came on in the second half, made a positive impact, got a 6.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, Bologna really had a lot of players who stepped up in this game.
It sounds like a real collective performance from them.
Yeah, it was, for sure.
How about for Napoli? Were there any players who stood out in a negative way based on the ratings?
Yeah, I mean, Di Lorenzo had a tough time against Ndoye. He got a 5.
Okay.
Juan Hizis also had a key lapse in concentration for the goal, so he got a 5.5.
Right.
Neres was pretty ineffective and kind of disappeared from the game.
Yeah.
He got a 5, and even Lobotka, who's usually so good in midfield,
right,
he seemed to fade in the second half, and he got a 5.5.
It's interesting how those ratings really reflect that kind of second half dip in performance from Napoli.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a clear indication that something wasn't quite right for them in that second half.
How about the coaches? How did they do in terms of their tactical decisions?
Well, Italiano got a 7, which, reflects the fact that Bologna really responded well in the second half. They made some adjustments tactically.
Yeah.
And the players showed a lot of mental resilience to come back and get the draw.
Yeah.
Stellini, on the other hand, only got a 5.5.
Okay.
And I think that's partly because it felt like he didn't really have an answer for Bologna's pressure in the second half.
Right.
There weren't really any countermeasures that seemed to work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's reflected in the ratings.
So ultimately what we saw was Bologna continuing their impressive form.
Absolutely.
They're playing with confidence.
Yeah.
They're tactically flexible. And they've got that mental fortitude as well to come back from a goal down. And for Napoli, it's still the same old story, isn't it?
It is, unfortunately.
Second half struggles.
Yep.
Questions about their consistency. Those late substitutions.
It's becoming a bit of a pattern.
It is.
And it's not a good one.
And let's not forget about Ndoye's brilliance.
Oh, yeah.
What a goal that was.
Absolutely a goal that deserves to be seen again and again.
So as we kind of wrap things up here, think about this.
Yeah.
Bologna building momentum. Napoli with, potentially an easier run of fixtures coming up.
Right.
What does this one draw tell us about where these two teams are going? And what does it tell us about, the importance of mental strength in football?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the biggest takeaway from this game.
Yeah.
Bologna showed that they have it.
Yeah.
And Napoli maybe not so much right now.
Right. Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Yeah.
But thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.
See you then.